ladies and gentlemen. I'm Robert G. Cassiela. Thanks for joining us. I'm here with author of 17 novels, Mr. Robert Funderburk. Thank you so much for being here to talk with us. So, tell us a little bit about your body of work.
I started off writing a mystery, and I got 40 rejections on it, so I put it aside for a while. Started another novel, and I was well on the way to that many rejections with it. I met a writer named Gilbert Morris. Gilbert, he's gone now. Got a PhD in English literature, taught creative writing in university for about 30 years. So I hooked up with him, and he allowed me to write 6 World War II novels while he took half the royalties. But he does everything like the Tasmanian Devil. It's just fast, you know, everything is fast. So he comes back from a convention with a contract for 4 novels for me to write in 8 months. And I'd never had a novel published, never had written a complete novel.
So you'd written portions of novels, but never a complete novel?
Yeah, never had anything published. And all I did was write, day and night. I just wrote. He finally had to write half of one of the novels, and it took 9 to 10 months, but that's still a pretty good output. 3.5 novels in 9 months.
Excellent. So once those novels were published, what do you recall the first that came out that was published? What was that called?
The first one was called A Call to Honor.
A Call to Honor.
Yeah, it was World War II year, and the name of the series is The Price of Liberty. It was published by Word Publishing. They were in Dallas. I remember we went to speak to the staff, and it's the building with the statue of horses out front running through the water, and it looks like they're kicking up water.
Oh yeah,
that's where their offices were. And the first novel, I sat down with my uncle, who was in World War II, and he did something very similar to the main character in A Call to Honor. When they heard about Pearl Harbor, a lot of the seniors in high school left school and went and joined up, and that's what he did. So I sat for 8 hours at the computer and took notes. And when I finished the novel, we sent it to Word, and the editor's dad had been in World War II in the Navy, and he read the manuscript and said, that's exactly the way it was.
Wow.
Because I had gotten it from someone who had been there.
And how old were you at this time?
50.
50. 50.
50.
Wow.
So it's something you can do in your old age, you know. You ain't got to be pretty to do it. You know?
So for anyone out there that's an aspiring novelist or writer or screenwriter, obviously, you can do it at any age, start at any age. I think that's amazing.
And you have experience as you get older. You have more to write from, more to write about.
Only lends to more levels of perspective or layers of perspective.
Yeah.
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 That's great.
Right.
That's great. So what's one of your works that you feel most proud of? Or
the one I like the best is called The Fires of Autumn. It's the first in a series of 4 detective novels set in the Baton Rouge area, New Orleans, Chaffalaya Basin, and it was drawn largely from my experience as a parole officer in Baton Rouge and these surrounding parishes. So I didn't have to do much legal research. I'd already been there and done that. So, and it's probably, being the first novel, it's probably got the best and the worst of my writing. And in writing it, I felt like I was chipping through a cement wall with a blunt teaspoon. I just thought I would never finish it.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally got it down to I would write 5 pages a day. I realized I can't send all these hours to the publisher. They don't want hours. They want words on paper.
They want content.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So I would try to write 5 pages a day, every day. I would review them, edit them, and when I finished the next 5, same thing. Then when I finished the chapter, I would go back, edit, rewrite the chapter. I'd do that for every chapter, and then at the end of the book, I would go through the whole book, ship it off. And it was like giving birth to a child. You know, you raise them up. I have yet to read one of my novels. You know, it's like, you know, I birthed you, you're on your own. Because the friend said, oh, you can't wait to get it back to read it. I haven't read one of them, you know. I've already spent enough time with them.
Yeah. Reading, writing, rereading, editing, etc.
Exactly.
You've read it plenty of times.
As William Butler Yeats said in a great poem, Adam's Curve, stitching and unstitching.
So the Fires of Autumn is the first in the series of the character Dylan St. John.
Dylan St. John.
And so he's a detective in South Louisiana. And you wrote 4 novels.
4 novels.
So tell us a little bit about that character. And obviously you mentioned your work as a probation officer. So I'm sure you've encountered over the years plenty of crazy situations and characters.
We used to meet about midnight, a group of us, and we'd go out 2 at a time, and all night long arresting people, hauling them to jail. You know, we had these lists, making a list, checking it twice, gonna find out. Most of them were naughty.
Who's violating parole?
Yeah.
Or probation.
Exactly.
So do you have any wild, dangerous stories that come to mind about that time?
One of them, they're more comedy than wild and dangerous. Let me tell you one thing where danger comes from in this kind of work. This friend of mine, it was about dusk, and he went to try to find somebody at a house, and he was standing at a fence talking to someone over the fence, and he heard a click, and he looked to his left, and there was, I guess, a senile man next door who had a shotgun leveled at his head, but it misfired for some reason. Unexpectedly, that's where the danger comes from. Now, we had a warrant on a guy, and this was back in 70, I guess. Everybody was wearing shoulder-length hair, the men, you know, and this guy had his head shaved. So there was something wrong with him, we knew already. And this friend of mine and I took the back, and these 2 guys took the front to serve the warrant. Well, nothing was happening. I said, I'm going to go up and see what happened. So I went up there, and they were trying to push their way inside, and 2 big men, and he was so strong, he took the door and just pushed it back and locked it. And because he was inside the house, we couldn't get in the house. We had to get a sheriff's deputy to serve the warrant for some reason, some legal reason. And so I went running around the back so he couldn't get out the back. And my friend was standing at the back door with a broom. I said, Paul, you have a pistol. What are you doing with the broom? You're going to say, stop or I'll sweep? Get your pistol out. So, anyway, the guy tried to come out a back window, and Paul did have his little pistol, about the size of a tie tack. He put it at him, and he said, freeze, and the guy fell over in there. And the guy who went to get the deputies, he told them everything except he had 2 probation officers in the back. So this deputy was running around and saw us, and he shucked the 12-gauge shell into that riot gun, and we were probation officers screaming, holding up our badges, you know.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to kill that guy. Didn't even tell him, you know, that we were in the back. He did the paperwork right. He was real good at paperwork.
Wow. So you were hunting down criminals by night and writing by day?
No, this was way before I started.
Way before.
Yeah, I didn't start writing till I think 92.
Another you talked about before was All the Days Were Summer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the second in the Dylan St. John series.
Yeah, it's a novel about assassination of South Louisiana mayors, and who the assassins are using medieval weapons. You know, it's my world. I created it in the book, and I figured the fewer politicians, the better world it would be. So we're assassinating politicians, and it goes into the swamps, and it's kind of a psychological drama, really. It's about a mayor's daughter who played under the stairs next to her dad's office, and he has people over, and she's just accumulating all this and growing up with it. So
if
that's what that's about.
And this is one you've discussed potentially turning into a film. So you would
Right.
possibly,
if you do your work. Right.
if I write the screenplay. You hear that? Hey, you never know. You may be if I write the screenplay, you may very well be seeing All the Days Are Summer on the big screen. Now, you've done the hard part, obviously.
I don't know. I've never written a screenplay,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
You've written the story. You've written the novel. So there seems to be a common theme in a lot of your work. Seems to be because epic struggles against good versus evil.
Yeah.
How would you classify some of your writing, or what motivates it, or in the stories you choose to tell?
I like to see people's lives changed. It's not. It has the gospel in it. You know, whether writers put it in or not, people do go to church, and they do hear the gospel. And in the business I was in for 20 years, I referred a lot of people, psychiatrists, social workers, psychologists. I went through all that, and I never really saw changes in people like I have seen with people who hear the gospel and respond to the gospel. That's not preachy. It's just every day somebody will mention something. You know.
Well, so the question's got to be for every author. They're always influenced by someone, something. Who are your favorite or most impactful authors who have affected your work?
Probably poets have influenced my work more than novelists. William Butler Yeats, James Dickey. Dickey was a fullback in college. He was a fighter pilot in the South Pacific in World War II. He came back, was in advertising in Atlanta in 1960, making $50,000 a year, chucked it all and started writing poems.
This is never too late.
Yeah.
Never too late.
Yeah. Hemingway wrote a prose that was so simple and clean and uncluttered. When my work became cluttered, like leaves, just adjectives and adverbs just piled up, I would read Hemingway, and it would help me push through that and get rid of all this unnecessary part of the writing. That's what he did for me. But like I said, probably poets influenced me more than novelists. Steinbeck's Winter of Our Discontent was, I think it's his best novel. It's little known work of his, but if you like Steinbeck and haven't read it, read it.
And then, of course, you mentioned Dylan Thomas previously,
Right.
as someone who heavily influenced you as a poet.
Yeah, the sound of his writing and poetry, and the way he used language like no one I've ever read. He took English and with the same words, he created a different language. It's, I don't know how to explain it. Just have to read it.
So basically, as someone who's a prolific writer that's written 17 novels and a lot of poems. And what advice would you give to any aspiring novelist, screenwriter, poet? What would you tell them?
I think I would tell them, don't do it. Unless you have the hide of a rhinoceros, because you put your heart into this, and you live with it for days, months, maybe years, and it's the best that you have to give. And it's like birthing a child almost. And when those publishers send back, sorry, we can't use this, we're not accepting this or that, what they're saying is that we don't want it.
We don't like what you did.
Yeah, we don't like what you did.
Yeah.
This isn't any good. So it's like a woman after 9 months giving birth to a baby, and maybe in a couple of weeks she has it all cleaned up and beautiful, and she goes out somewhere and people say, what an ugly baby. Get the baby out of here. I don't like to look at that baby. So imagine doing that over and over and over. So you have to handle rejection. I was told when I started, you need 3 things: talent, timing, and tenacity. And tenacity, they said, was the rarest quality. I said, oh, surely talent, yes, but no. A lot of people have talent.
Yeah.
There's probably people with more talent than some of the writers who have been published, but the tenacity to keep pushing through and pushing through, going to the mailbox and you see that brown envelope that you have sent them, self-addressed and stamped, coming back. You know there's another rejection. And you keep going back day after day, week after week, and looking at those brown envelopes. So be prepared for a lot of rejection.
And then don't quit.
That's right.
Be tenacious.
Tenacity. You got to keep pushing forward. I know sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning I'd be writing and I'm thinking, is this making any sense? Are these even complete sentences, And people talk about inspiration. Well, that's Hollywood. Writer's block. That's Hollywood. It's just you don't want to write. You're lazy. Maybe you're emotionally upset about something. But it's like plumber's block. I just don't feel that pipe wrench today. So you just have to write. And I have found the times I sit down and there's not a word in my head to write. I don't know what I'm going to write. I write, and then other times I feel inspired. Like, this is the greatest stuff ever written. And I go back and look at them, and there's no difference. Same fingers, same mind.
If you ever get writer's block, you can always go, Jack Nicholson in The Shining. Sit there and type, all work, no play makes Jack a dull boy. Right? And then eventually something's going to come out. Hopefully.
I didn't remember. I saw the movie, but I didn't remember that. Yeah. Type something.
Type something.
Keep writing some words.
Sure.
Keep putting them on paper.
Sure.
Something
doesn't
happens.
hurt. Something's going to come out that's worthwhile.
Something will happen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. I love what you're saying there about writer's block, because I've often thought, I feel like I've had writer's block before, but at the same time I go, come on, it's not real. It's an excuse, isn't it?
Exactly.
And writers are inventive, so I think writers came up with the term writer's block.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that being being diagnosed with writer's block.
Right. Writers who didn't want to write say, what can I call lazy? Lazy doesn't sound good. Oh, writer's block.
Right. Don't want to say I feel creatively uninspired at the moment.
Yeah.
It's writer's block.
My muse has left me.
And of course, it's something writers all experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
At some point in your life, it's just.
Yeah.
But if you fixate on it, you ruminate.
Yeah, you can.
On writer's block, you
just keep writing.
Yeah. Sure.
It's you're the same person. It's the same mind. creating those words, just keep writing.
Absolutely. So obviously you've written 17 novels. You're writing poetry currently as well. What's next on your agenda as an author?
On my agenda, and hopefully yours, is you will do a screenplay on All the Days of Summer and make a movie. That's pretty much my agenda.
All the Days of Summer. So you heard it here first. He's driving a hard bargain. He wants me to do a screenplay adaptation of this book, and I'm honored to be asked to do that. So I think that may be next on my agenda as well.
Good. And he can star in it. Does he look like Dylan St. John? He should have been named Dylan St. John.
Well, we're going to have to talk about that more.
Okay.
And get working on it.
Good. Good.
Mr. Robert Funderburk, everyone. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe if you so care to, and leave us some comments. And in addition, we'll post links to where you could purchase some of Mr. Robert Funderburk's novels and books. And yeah, thanks again.
You're welcome.
So glad I wore a jacket in South Louisiana in August.
That's a smart move.